Holy crap, guys. I really can't believe this. Just like with Royal Problem, an episode like this involving the Apple siblings' parents is one episode a lot of us has sought for years. But this one, to some, may have held a bit more weight for when, if at all, it saw the light of day. Even though it was pretty well accepted around the community as to Pear Butter and Bright Mac's current whereabouts and that it may take a flashback episode to finally see them, anything about who they were or even their names was all some of us wanted. Some may have wanted something a bit further, yet I believe a situation like this, the phrase less is more holds so much more meaning. And after 6.5 seasons, along came Perfect Pear. I don't say this about episodes much, but in terms of this entire show, to me, Perfect Pear is one of the most beautiful things the writers have ever given us. Since we knew absolutely nothing about the Apple siblings' parents, I thought the framing device was brilliant to have them learn not only how their parents met and fell for one another, but that they're also half pear, kind of like until I was in my teens, I had no clue my grandmother was actually not my biological grandmother. I just love it when the audience learns alongside a character or characters. I believe this can help us see more eye to eye with a fresh perspective, and it's not just easily digestible expository dialogue, it has actual meaning for both the viewers and characters, and the fact that it's a flashback episode definitely helps that. We're being shown how their friendship blossomed into love and what they had to go through because of their family's rivalry. I also like the added touch that even characters like Mrs. Cake and the mayor have close ties to the Apple parents as well. Speaking of the rivalry between their families, I love the homage to Romeo and Juliet, even if that little tidbit was leaked well before the episode aired. Nevertheless, just like with Top Bolt, Perfect Pear pulled off the right way to honor another story. Although this episode was much more heavy-handed than Top Bolt was with its homages and references. Instead of just making a shot-for-shot remake set in Ponyville in the past, the writers and animators perfectly took the story idea and made it their own version, with Pear Butter and Bright Mac having to keep their love under wraps from their families. The romance between the two was simply adorable. I loved how they met as foals and didn't let the hate that the Apples and Pears, especially Granny Smith and Grandpear, shared get in the way of a budding friendship that would one day blossom into love. And it all felt so completely natural and progressed nicely with the episode's wonderful pacing. Going from friends to nervously hiding their feelings from one another and staring at each other across orchards, all the way to that sweet, endearing picnic where Pear Butter admitted she loved Bright Mac through her song. Now, Pear Butter's song isn't my favorite song the show has ever given us. It's definitely no hysteria, but I still liked it. It was really the inflictions and emotions that really came together to create a truly loving and euphoric scene. And of course, when her father tried to split her up with Bright Mac because of his hatred for the apples, I felt Pear Butter's heartbreak. Even though we knew they had to stay together or else no Apple siblings, I still felt her broken heart. Grandpear's character didn't just have a good casting choice with William Shatner, who did a great job voicing him and doesn't even need an introduction. He represented the cautionary tale of how holding a grudge makes you miserable and that you shouldn't let your own feelings dictate someone else's. Sometimes it's better to swallow your pride and put your feelings aside for ones you love, or else no one is truly happy. But his character also shows how strong forgiveness within family is. You can still move on and learn from mistakes, even years later, but you shouldn't be afraid to face them or ones you've wronged if you're truly sorry. It's better to know whether or not you're forgiven than to torture yourself by refusing to face it, like Mr. Marley from Home Alone. As for Granny, well, this flashback story actually has some character development for her. Despite it coming after Grandpear disowned Pear Butter, she finally realized that nothing would ever rip her son and his wife apart. And we know that Granny would never just kick someone to the curb for no reason, but she learned that she can't stop how much Pear Butter and Bright Mac loved one another, and found her limits on when to stop a silly feud. In fact, her hard-headedness due to the rivalry may have been passed down to Applejack, who could have also inherited some from her mother if how Pear Butter stood up to Grandpear is any indication. Now, what I have to say next may be upsetting, but please bear with me. As much as I loved seeing Bright Mac and Pear Butter, I don't want to see them come back. We've waited for an episode with them for so long, and the writers more than delivered here, in my opinion. But I want the specialty of this episode to last. If we see them again, Perfect Pear would just lose that special aura surrounding it. We now know how they met, fell in love, and the depressing way Pear Butter was disowned by her own father. We also know that they're gone. We don't need to see or know what happened after Apple Bloom was born. In fact, this episode was another confirmation that their parents are dead, but it was good they didn't outright say it or make a big deal out of it. The characters, the ones who it matters to the most, already know, and I feel leaving it open is the perfect way to leave it so we can fill in our own answers, make our own stories so it'll feel even more special to everyone individually. Applejack's line in Crusaders of the Lost Mark pretty much put the nail in the coffin.
Oh, Sugar Cube, if Mom and Dad were here, they'd be so proud of you.
But Apple Bloom's line here 100% sealed the deal.
Now that we're all together, there's something we want to show you. Mom and Dad left us something to remember them by. Come on!
And really, while the joke about Big Mac and AJ hiding the pear jam was funny, think about it. They tried to hide it from Granny Smith by burying it. They buried the pear jam. As for the main moral, my god. Perfect Pear detailed that love is extremely powerful, but it also shows the pain it can bring, that it isn't always for the better. It illustrated the harsh reality that love is never easy and that it can bite. Its power does bring happiness, but it can also bring pain, drive people insane or make them perform rash, cold, and sometimes hurtful decisions, such as disowning a family member or choosing what their heart aches for. It can bring two people together forever in warmth, but it can also cause others to fall to their knees in agony. With love can come loss and heartache, and I applaud the writers for showing that it's not a one-way street of happiness. There aren't enough words left, folks. Perfect Pear took two characters that we were desperate to know more about and gave us, in my opinion, everything we needed to know. As I stated before, they're gone, and knowing that is enough. The town, and more importantly the Apple family, already knows what happened to Pear Butter and Brightback, and I want to keep it that way. The tender and tear-jerking moments, the song by Pear Butter, the brilliant homage to Romeo and Juliet, Shatner as grandpa, and the few jokes the episode managed to tell, even one with some heartbreaking symbolism about AJ and Big Mac burying the Pear Butter, and some during the flashback, all rolled together gorgeously to make my favorite episode of the season so far. This episode is easily a green flag rating. Yet I would really like to know, what did you think of Perfect Pear? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you for watching. I'm MrLeftTurn. I'll see you when I get back from the track.